Okay. Good morning to all of our audiences who are watching the live streaming on the Facebook page of Asian Vision Institute or AVI. My name is Hai Siêng Mới. I am a program assistant of Women's Digital Entrepreneurship. Today, it is my great honor to moderate this special dialogue. Welcome our audiences to the 6th episode of Women's Digital Entrepreneurship or WDE Policy Dialogue. I would like to inform our audiences that WDE Policy Dialogue is a series of monthly virtual webinars. For this month, our topic is food delivery industry during the pandemic. The purposes of our dialogues are to discuss the trends, the functionalities, and the role of women in food delivery industry in the kingdom. And today we are very honored, and it is our great pleasure to have with us two distinguished guest speakers whom are highly professional, highly experienced, and important individuals in the food delivery industry in the kingdom. I would like to introduce our audiences to Mr. Manu Rajan, who is a division CEO of Bing Cambodia, and Mr. Patrice Bing, who is a managing director of Foodpanda Cambodia. And thank you so much for joining us today. Okay, to begin our discussion, I would like to ask both of our speakers to briefly explain to our audiences the types or the models of food delivery services that have been practiced or exist in Cambodia. I would like to kindly give the floor to Mr. Manu first. Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning to everybody. And first of all, thank you for having me here. Really appreciate the opportunity to represent Wing here. Food delivery, Cambodia, in my opinion, we are one of the last entrants into the food delivery business in Cambodia. I'm sure Mr. Vignesh can talk more about it. But the different categories that we have noticed being covered are food, of course, and groceries, and some of the players in the market also cover some of the other electronics and some of the other essential commodities. But predominantly, I am assuming the market is dominated by food delivery. That's what constitutes majority of the orders that get placed every day. So yeah, so pretty much food, groceries, and a little bit of electronics and other items, other than essential commodities. But that's what predominantly dominates the delivery business in Cambodia.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Manu, for your insightful answer. And so for the same question, I would like to turn the floor to Mr. Patrice. Would you like to elaborate more on this, specifically on the food delivery services, like the models or the forms that are practiced in Cambodia so far, please?
Yeah, so first, thank you very much for having me this morning. It's a real pleasure to being with you and also my dear distinguished and esteemed colleague Manu. Right, it's always a pleasure. I think it's very important to keep in mind that food delivery in Cambodia is not new. Right, it's been around for about 10 years. It has slowly evolved towards more structured players coming into the market. And I think one of the first ones were Nyan Mopaibun, of course, and then followed by some other heavy players that progressively replaced a little bit the traditional delivery and helping each and every restaurant to professionalize this last mile delivery, right? Because I think it's towards that evolution that the market has been going with, as Manu was mentioning, very much a huge predominance of food into the delivery space. So it's really that rapid evolutions over the past 4 or 5 years that we've seen with more structure, ways to actually deliver the food that the people tend to order either by themselves or through platforms, right? So that's the main, I would say, trends in the past history for food delivery.
Thank you so much, Mr. Patrice, for your remarkable answer. So we can see that food delivery services are, like you have mentioned, it existed like in Cambodia since about 10 years ago. But currently we can see that the market seems to be more diverse. So I would like to ask another follow-up question to Mr. Patrice. How do you think it's diverse or competitive is the food delivery services in Cambodia? And because of the accelerating of the food delivery services in the currently, so I would like to know if the COVID-19, the current pandemic, is a catalyst to accelerate the food delivery services in the country.
As I was mentioning a little bit earlier, really food delivery has been here for a decade, right? COVID-19 only accelerated slightly that evolution, because if you really see the growth rates of the food delivery business in Cambodia, or activity in Cambodia, it's been over the past 2 to 3 years that you had extremely high multiples, and COVID-19 just accelerated a little bit this digitalization of the economy, food delivery being one of those elements. But I think we saw exactly the same evolution in payments, in digital payments acceptance, and any other commerce or commercial activity with commercial platforms as well, e-commerce. So it's really been ramping up over the past 24 months. But it's I would say it's more linked to the fact that Cambodia is a ideal market for that type of services, because the population is young, is very tech savvy. So the leapfrogging towards those types of setup and businesses is already into the DNA of the country, right? So really, for me, COVID-19 was an accelerator, much more than something that changed entirely the landscape. But yeah.
Thank you so much for your answer. I also would like to hear from Mr. Mani. Do you want to add any thoughts on this?
Yeah, sure. So let me just give you, food delivery is just one part of the many digital businesses that Cambodia has. So let me just add a different angle to it, since I come from Wing, and Wing also has been quite strong in the payments and the payments business, and now also into the commercial banking business, apart from the food delivery and grocery delivery services that we have. So if I compare the payments business, I can also give you an interesting background as to why a payment services company like Wing got into the food delivery business, right? So if you look at the money transfer business that was existing in the country before the pandemic struck, that is in 2019, we started a slowing down that happened during March and April 2020. That is when the pandemic first came into Cambodia, or we started getting alerted about the pandemic in Cambodia. We were lucky, we were less affected health-wise in 2020 than economy-wise, but thanks to the timely action the government took in dispersing the social protection funds and taking care of the vulnerable segments in the society, we were not as badly affected as many other countries in the world. But what we at Wing noticed is that some of the partners who worked with us, some of the partners who actually made us as big as we were in 2020 2020 were suffering. The merchant partners were one critical segment in that. We had about 60,000 merchant partners making use of Wing Pay payment solutions at that point in time. And when the consumer mobility was restricted because of the pandemic, people were taking care of themselves, confining to their homes, we realized that the merchant partners were suffering. And there was also the immediately affected segment was the tuk-tuk drivers and the local transportation, the people who worked in the local transportation. So that's when the thought of doing something to generate income for these partners of ours who actually helped us during their good days came into our minds. And that's how a company that is into payments and into commercial banking decided to enter food delivery business. We decided that because we had a captive audience of a lot of customers. You know, Wing had about 12 million unique users last year, and a lot of them actually use the app. Though majority still goes to the agents to do the agent banking, a large segment of them still use the apps to transact. And then runs into hundreds of millions of dollars. So we said if there are it was close to $800 million that was being transacted through the Wing app in the entire year. So then we realized, then this realization struck us that if there is such a large marketplace that is existing virtually and digitally on an app, then this is the right time for us to come forward and help the merchant partners who are actually suffering because of the pandemic. So that's how the thought of food delivery came into our minds. For us, it's an ecological extension of our vision where we said we will conveniently and relevantly bring products and solutions to the market that will improve the lives of people. So that's how we looked at the food delivery business. Now, we started out there and we noticed that, as I mentioned, we were more economically affected than health-wise. So we didn't go through long periods of lockdown like many of the other countries or many of our neighbors, which accelerated the adoption of digital services in those countries. But what we noticed is that if I were to compare versus 2019, that was the year where there was no pandemic, and 2020 and 2021, we were affected by it. When I look at the digital payments business versus 2019, the online payments increased about online transactions increased roughly around about 600% versus 2019, and the volume of transactions increased about 500% versus 2019. So there definitely a shift that took place when it comes to digital payments, mainly because the mobility of people were restricted. People decided to confine to their homes, to the safety of their homes, and then there was a more welcoming approach towards doing digital transactions. So instead of walking across to an agent, I've decided to do a transaction using my app. So that change did happen. So I thought I'll mention that here. But food delivery per se, as Mr. Vignesh mentioned, has been existing thanks to many of the new entrants in the market, there is a wider adoption, and people are more receptive to the concept of food being delivered to their homes. So that has taken place. And a lot of new entrants also came into the market, including Wing, which also would have fragmented the market a little more than it was before the pandemic.
No, and
long answer.
To add to what Mr. Rajan was mentioning, I think it's very important to understand that the food delivery market is still pretty much fragmented, right? You do not have, even though Food Panda has been here for about a year and a half now, and has captured quite rapidly a sizable part of the market. But it's a market that is still very open, very competitive, and whereby you can see you have very interesting companies and locally born and bred like winning more to enter the market. So it's always good to have a healthy competition, and I really believe that Cambodia is a very good example in Asia of this. So this is where food delivery still has tremendous future in Cambodia, right? In Phnom Penh, but also outside of the capital city or the main cities. And we believe, and I believe that Manu has the same vision as us by launching Wingmall, that it's only just the beginning, right? So we can always, as groups, put more emphasis on bringing this type of service really to the doorstep of the Cambodian population. And so that's really what we are aiming and striving for on a daily basis.
Thank you so much, Mr. Manu and Mr. Patrice, for very precise and detailed standpoints. So to be honest, I am also a consumer of Food Panda and also Wing. And as a young population, I see that there are several benefits for using food delivery services in my country. However, if we talk about another angle from the local business, like the local restaurants, like the small and medium-sized enterprises, what do you think? What are the benefits that they could receive by teaming up with the food delivery services for their business, and especially for the local business that are run by old generation? So they are very new to the concept of food delivery services. So how can we encourage them to use or team up these services in their local business? I would like to give the floor to Mr. Patrice, please.
Okay, thank you for the question. I think it's in Cambodia, that's really a very important one. Today, it's a matter of getting the apps into the hands of people. Of course, we know that every youngster, every white-collar person is having a couple of cell phones and so many apps into the phone that they are very accustomed to this mode of communication or interacting with the world. When it comes to, as you were mentioning, people that are a little bit less tech savvy, still for those brick and mortar businesses, I think it's extremely important to have this type of hand holding, right? Because that's also at what Food Panda we are putting a lot of effort on, is really to accompany each and every small business, tech savvy or not, to really going through this overall journey of being able to switch from being known into their neighborhood to being known in larger area and through different mediums or channels of communication. Facebook was a very good introduction in Cambodia for businesses. A lot of restaurants were already on Facebook, but the business model was slightly limited, right? So people could be known by it, but not really being reached out by potential users of customers. Today, having platforms like ours is really helping people to go way beyond their usual customer segments, geographic footprint, and being able to reach new people on a daily basis and being able to talk to them directly and generate this link, while those people still are into the comfort of their house or their office or whatever, right? So for us, it's very important. We see it being a very important tool for SMEs to actually grow their business. And again, this has been pushed a little bit more by of course COVID, because people were restrained, unfortunately, from their movement. But yeah, so just to answer very short, is a lot of interest and value added for the SMEs and the larger ones, or even MSMEs, right? Because the micros are also very important in Cambodia in the economic activity, but also the necessity to accompany people really through this journey and going step by step into their this new world, because we understand that sometimes it might look a little bit more complicated from the outside, but once we are being trained, we are being brought to this world, it's really straightforward, and we are happy that the customer experience is being preserved, and the user experience is there as well, which is extremely key for us.
Thank you, Mr. Patrice. You illustrate very well. And I also would like to ask Mr. Manu, would you like to have any thoughts on this question?
Yeah, yeah, I can give you a different context from Wing side. The micro SMEs are not very alien to the concept of digital selling digitally, right? Where with 11 million Facebook accounts, or maybe going to be 12 million Facebook accounts in Cambodia, there is a lot of social commerce that was happening informally even before. Now, what we have observed is that people go live on Facebook. You go live, you advertise your products, and then you either give your Wing account number or any other digital wallet account number or a phone number, and then say you send the money to me. And the money comes, and the payment actually takes place informally as a P2P payment those days, even now. And then the goods get shipped. So this entire value chain of a digital purchasing digitally and getting it delivered or fulfilled that till the last mile was existing even before. So what food delivery and e-commerce companies like ours are doing is, it is just formalizing this entire value chain. And there are benefits to doing that. Before, one of the fears that the micro SMEs carry is that my price competitiveness will go away when I have to register my business, when I have to do bookkeeping, then I have to pay taxes. Then I'm forced to pass on the additional cost to the customers, and then my price competitiveness goes away. Because when you look at the IFC research on the 500,000 SMEs that we have in Cambodia, about 95% of them are, 98% are micro SMEs, and 95% don't even have a formal identity. And over 60% of them are women. Now, when you look at that base and their fears, what is happening in the food delivery business today, and maybe slowly we will all evolve into e-commerce players, is alleviating those fears with evidence. So when you list yourself on a platform like Wing, to give an example, you are actually exposing yourself to millions of customers. Now, the price competitiveness fear that you had, that I will have to increase my price if I have to become a formal business enterprise in Cambodia, will go away, because instead of just addressing to 100,000 customers that you are addressing now suddenly you are exposed to 1 million, 2 million, 3 million customers. And I was talking to you about 12 million users coming on board Wing platform last year. So suddenly you have a captive audience of people who can buy from you. And then there is this company that is also doing the last mile fulfillment for your business, which used to be an overhead, which is an overhead for you right now. So I'm assuming these fears, once it get elevated, is definitely going to benefit the small and medium enterprises, especially the micro, small and medium enterprises that are doing businesses in Cambodia. And of course, I mean, when a payment company like Wing comes into food delivery, there are added advantages of the financial transactions. Now, what happens when you're using Wing Pay on the Wing platform or inside Wing Mall, which is our delivery business, you actually use Wing Pay. Though there is a cash on delivery option, but the preferred choice is Wing Pay because you're inside a Wing app. So that means that you have a Wing account and there is money inside your wallet. So all transactions and payments are instant. So the merchant partners do not have to wait for payments at all. So as soon as a sale happens, the cash transfers hands. It is settled immediately and instantly. So it works exactly like a normal walk-in physical transaction that happens. That you buy digitally, but your cash settlement is instant. And similarly for the delivery personnel and also for cash reversal for customers. And if an item is canceled, the money immediately comes back into your wallet. So those are benefits of a payment company like Wing doing e-commerce or food delivery business. So there are many advantages for a smaller, to come back to your question. So there are many advantages for micro, small and medium enterprises in Cambodia to be part of formal platforms like the ones that we have now. So yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you so much for your perspective. So we can see that there are a lot of benefits that SME and especially MSMEs can get from teaming up with the food delivery services. To follow up with this, despite the benefits, I would like to know if there are any challenges in implementing the food delivery services in Cambodia. For this question, I also would like to hear from Mr. Manu.
Okay, well, yeah, the challenges, I guess, for food delivery, as Mr. Vignesh rightly said, it is not a new concept. The concept was always here. Now we've added different dimensions to that concept with new technology coming in, new best practices from across the world coming in. So it has only evolved right now. There's only evolved from what it was before, and it will continue to evolve because there are a lot of developments that are happening in that field. Now the challenges therefore will be in the mindset, and challenges are inside the merchant's head, right? So we have the merchant partners. I said most of the restaurants and the merchant partners that we work with currently are very open and familiar with this concept, so there are no challenges there. There are, as I mentioned, there are challenges associated, if you want to call them as challenges, because one of the things that we noticed is the cash settlement I mentioned about. So cash settlement, if you also don't have a payment services along with you, then cash settlement will have to wait. Otherwise, it becomes a risky business for the operator. But with payment service providers like Wing coming in, the cash settlement is instant. So it is just like a normal business. So we are removing one challenge, if ever it existed in the minds of the merchant partners and delivery boys and consumers. Then for micro SMEs, the challenges is what I touched upon as answer to the previous questions. So there are a lot of concerns in their heads about price competitiveness, bookkeeping, how I'm going to register my business, how am I going to pay my taxes if I formally come on board a formal platform like the food delivery business, because we definitely need legal entities to come on board the business. So those challenges we need to address, but we'll have to address them gradually because those challenges are not straightforward, right? So those are inherent. It has its own unique history and past. So those needs to be addressed step by step and over a period of time. Thank you. That's my answer. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you for your insight. There is a question from our attendee, but before we go to the question, I would like to ask Mr. Patrice to elaborate more on the same question that I asked. But for this time, because Mr. Manu already illustrated very well on the challenges of teaming up with the food delivery industry, so I would like to ask to Mr. Patrice, in order to improve the food delivery industry in Cambodia, what do you think the government or the policymakers should do or give a hand on it, please?
Yeah, so thanks very much for the questions. I'm happy to having some of the complicated ones, right, that everyone has been actually asking themselves for the past 2 years. So and your question is actually extremely interesting. I really believe that today the government has already taken steps towards facilitating the overall ecosystem, being for the food delivery, for other sector of activities that Manu was mentioning earlier, being payments, being e-commerce. There are a couple of laws that have been passed. The law on e-commerce was published a couple of years ago. That was an extremely important piece of the puzzle today. Today, I think the majority of the struggles are not so much related to the organization of the country itself, but it's really a matter of getting people accustomed to ordering from home and having this delivered to them in a structured manner. Right. So that's the first thing. When it comes to the other struggle, which is directly linked to the supply chain a little bit, because the supply chain in Cambodia is improving on a daily basis, right? But still, it's really where a lot of the vendors, a lot of the restaurants, a lot of the shops that we are onboarding on the platform are facing issues or struggles, right? Because there is nothing more detrimental for a partner of ours to actually receiving an order, but they have been waiting for goods for 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 1 week. So they have to turn down the request from a customer, right? So I think supply chain being one of the main struggles, as I was mentioning, the fact that the government is building great infrastructures and setting a very interesting legal framework is actually the main steps towards a very competitive and very efficient food delivery business, even though we are considering the last mile delivery, as it is called. Before the first 100 and 200 miles, there is no last mile delivery, right? So it's very important to really look upstream to have those issues addressed, and from what we know, the government is extremely serious about addressing them, and that's only good news for the entire ecosystem.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patrice, for sharing a lot of interesting stories and speak from experiences. So as we have mentioned in our purposes of the dialogue, we already discussed about the trends and functionality of food delivery industry in Cambodia. So now I would like to focus more on another part of our dialogue, which is on the role of women in the food delivery industry in the kingdom. And we also have one question from our audience, Mr. Dr. Chiwanaret. So he would like to ask to both of our speakers, what are the advantages and disadvantages of having women on board in the food delivery sector? I would like to turn the floor to Mr. Manu. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Being is an equal opportunity employer. Now, so for us, the opportunities are equal. You may know that the large percentage of the workforce at Wing are women, and it's very close to 50%. It's 40% plus. More than 50% of the Wing users are women. And more than 80% of our agents are women. And every third merchant partner we onboard is a woman. So there is definitely a very critical role women are playing in the success story that has been for Wing and all the new initiatives that Wing is taking even now. So women play a very critical role in the SME sector, especially in Cambodia. And I was just mentioning about the IFC research that was published in 2019, where it talked about 61% of all micro SMEs in Cambodia being women. So if you really are if you are really are doing a hyper local business like food delivery, you just cannot ignore the micro SMEs who are here. And when it comes to micro SMEs, you cannot ignore women, because more than half of them, 61% of them are women. So they play a very crucial role in the success of a food delivery business in Cambodia.
Thank you so much, Mr. Manu, for a remarkable answer. I'd like to know if Mr. Patrice would like to elaborate more on this. Please.
Yes, thanks very much. The entire Delivery Hero and its operations in Cambodia, being Food Panda, really emphasize the need to give equal chances to all the genders, right? I think it's important that you do not have a place that is predetermined by your gender, but that everyone has exactly the same chance of success, being into the industry itself or from the food sector as a whole. I'll just give you one number. For example, in Delivery Hero Cambodia Food Panda, 55% of the management team is composed of women, right? So that's a reality. And that's really something that we are proud of, and that we continue to nurture as much as we can. So it's really very something that we have at heart. And we know that in Cambodia, like a lot of the fast-growing countries, women are also having a very key role into the creation of value into the economy. So the food delivery business is one of them, and we are also extremely proud to have a certain number of riders that are also females. So it also surprises very often the customer receiving their order, just seeing a Food Panda rider being a lady. It also creates a very good bond with the population, because it's really important to, as I said, give a equal chance to every person. But that can be also extended to people with disabilities. We are also within Food Panda very much pushing the ability for those having disabilities to also being an active part of the food delivery business. So that's really something that we are proud and willing to continue to push as much as we can.
Okay, I am very happy to hear both of our speakers' answer, and thank you so much for a very comprehensive overview. So we can see that there are a lot of percentage of women in both Wing and also Food Panda. So I would like to ask a follow-up question to both of our speakers. Are there any mechanisms or policies that are practiced in your company that support the participation of women? I would like to turn the floor back to Mr. Manu.
See, as I mentioned, Wing is an equal opportunity employer. But however, we are fully aware of the social bias that exists against gender inclusion, not only in food delivery business, but in all walks of life. So at Wing, our HR department takes conscious efforts to train our women talent for career grooming and development. We are proud partners of many organizations that help us in this, including the Women's World Banking, who actually take training sessions for our payments business and the banking business employees. Among many other things that Wing does, which I'm sure a lot of organizations in Cambodia also do, one thing that stands out for me is the life coaching concept. So we believe in improving the lives of people, as I mentioned. That's our vision. So be it customers, be it partners, or be it even employees. So every people manager at Wing undergoes a life coaching program where a life coach is assigned to them and whose job is to handhold them and ensure that their career paths blend with their life paths seamlessly, which especially is very critical in the case of a woman employee across the world, not only in Cambodia. But a lot of times this gets neglected and ignored. So this life coach, so these to helping employees understand each other, listening to their unique perspectives, listening to their unique problems, helping them communicate better with each other, relate to each other better, and also help them become better people who will do good for others. Especially if your vision is to use your products and services to improve the lives of people, you actually need people who have got that philanthropic mindset, which they can seamlessly blend with the commercial acumen. Because we are not an NGO, we have to be self-sustaining through the profits that we generate. So it's very important to blend those two skills, which could be slightly conflicting at times. So that's where this whole life coaching concept. That's where I find it very unique and very useful and very innovative that the HR team is doing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Manu. I hope that the life coaching concept training from Link could open to their consumers as well. Okay, so
good for the employees.
Okay, so for the same question, I also would like to hear from Mr. Patrice. Would you like to add on this question from the perspective of your company?
As I was mentioning, we are striving towards gender equality, right? And I think both Food Panda and Wing are very good example into this. On our side, we also emphasize very much the fact that people are, before anything else, human beings, right? So respecting the work-life balance is also for us extremely important, and that comes with a lot of flexibility when it comes to managing people, right, and helping them to manage their own life, right, because we know that we all have a mother, a father, a child, a husband, and brother, a sister that once in a while need support and physical support. So what Food Panda aims at doing is actually giving flexibility for the people to not only during COVID period, but as a whole, 365 days a year, to bring them flexibility so that they can actually cater their needs at home and cater their needs at the office. So I really think that those mechanisms put in place, again, with the help of our headquarters, both in Germany and in Singapore, and with the very active participation of the local team, are allowing us to give a chance for everyone to make a career for themselves, right? And not being blocked by some gender bias or responsibilities that may actually overwhelm them at some point. So that's really important for us to actually push for those. I actually very much like the life coach concept, and that's something we might look into very, very deeply also at Food Panda. But no, that's really something very important for us. And being a father myself, I think it's very important that everyone, gender, disregarding the gender itself, but to being able to have that type of ability to care for the ones we love, but also care for the business that is trusting us.
Thank you so much, Mr. Patrice. It's very remarkable to hear from you. So we have got a couple of questions from our audience. But before we go to that, I would like to ask one question from our audiences. They would like to know, what are your advices for women entrepreneurs to build resilience, to survive and thrive during this pandemic crisis? Please, Mr. Patrice.
My two initial advices would be believe in yourself and try, because it's important that people having an idea of business are willing to make a life and an activity by themselves, do actually trust that they are entitled to try. They are entitled to being successful, but they are also entitled to fail sometime. But what is important is that women entrepreneurs continue to try on a daily basis, because again, we've seen so many countries where women entrepreneurship was actually the key for the success of an economy, and microfinance or food delivery are extremely good example when it comes to this, of those women entrepreneurs stepping forward and developing and pushing their idea towards towards something that was just not as small as they were thinking initially, but that really became a huge success and a life-changing experience for their peers, but also for their customers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patrice, for your insight. I also would like to hear from Mr. Manu. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for that question. Just over and above what Mr. Vignes was talking about, I would also recommend that the women entrepreneurs embrace technology, right? A lot of needs have not gone away. The needs are still there, but the way they are getting fulfilled is what the pandemic has changed. So in most cases, you still have a relevant business. Your products and services are still appreciated and needed in the market. Maybe the way they were getting fulfilled, or you were selling them in the past, is what has changed. Keep an open mind, embrace technology, do an introspection to see if you really need to make small changes to make your product, services, solutions more relevant in the changed circumstances. Because everything is, there are certainties in uncertainties also. I know these are uncertain times. Nobody knows what's in store for tomorrow. But even within that, there are certain things that are certain. So you have to look for those certainties in all these chaos and uncertainties that exist around you. Look for those certainties and believe in it, as Mr. Vignes said, and strive to make that work. One not easy, but one simple low-hanging solution is embracing technology. Because now, especially with the last mile again, I know there are a couple of questions on last mile there. So again, with last mile fulfillment companies and platforms that exist now, it is much, much easier for at least the women micro entrepreneurs in Cambodia to embrace technology, because you just have to sign. You just requires your signature. These plug and play solutions are already existing. So yeah, that's all that I need to add on top of what Mr. Vignes said.
So thank you so much, both of our speakers. We also have a couple more questions. So I would like to address a question from Dr. Kim Long. He would like to ask to both of our speakers, in what innovative ways can food delivery be made more environmentally friendly? For example, like reduction of carbon emission or reduction of the use of plastic to make it more cost effective. I would like to turn the floor to Mr. Patrice, please.
I'm actually extremely glad that this matter of going green, even though that's not our color, you know, we are pink, but going green or trying to go green as often and quickly as we can is extremely important for us as well, right? There is also an overall education effort that is ongoing within Foodpanda to actually accompany both the customers, users, and partners to consider reducing the footprint of what we're doing on a daily basis. Of course, it goes via eco-friendly packaging, right? That we try to put at the disposition of the restaurants that work with us. But that's also reducing all those plastic garbage and disposals that we unfortunately still see very much into the kingdom. So there is an overall effort. It's not only through our CSR program, which is very much turned towards one of the axes being green, but is really also trying to bring infrastructures and new ways to actually do business to reduce that impact. Because at the end of the day, the world is supposed to be addressing those matters so that the generations to come, which is what is also very important for both companies, I'm pretty sure between Wing and Foodpanda, so that the generations to come can continue to enjoy the extremely beautiful sceneries that we have into Cambodia, right? So it goes way beyond. So in a very short manner, for us, it's extremely important to go environmentally friendly and to make it one of the pillars of our activities for the years and decades to come.
Thank you so much, Mr. Patrice, for interesting overviews on this matter. So for next question, we also have from the questions from our audience on Facebook Live. We have a question from Miss Dari. She would like to ask both of our speakers if you have observed any food increase or decrease lately across your platforms.
The increase in orders?
I think she mean that.
Yeah. Mr. Ignis, do you want to go first, or?
Yeah, I can go for it. I think the increase of orders come with the trust of the people, right? And the trust of what is your contribution as a company to the greater good and the greater picture, right? So yes, we saw an increase. Yes, we believe that continuing to do the right thing even when nobody's watching is extremely important, right? That's one of the key concept of being a responsible corporate in Cambodia, but also everywhere where we operate with Foodpanda, right? So I think people recognize the fact that if you bring extremely good customer experience and care for your customers truly and genuinely, people trust you with their business, right? It's very important to being a trustworthy partner and to continue to ask yourself on a daily basis if it is still relevant today, if the actions that you are taking today will still be relevant tomorrow, and if they are not, then to come up with new ideas and concepts so that you retain the trust of your customers and firm, right? So overall, I think that's our stance, and being responsible and caring is actually what is helping you to get better and to have more presence into the kingdom.
Thank you so much, Mr. Patrice, for the insight. I also would like our audience also want to know another aspect for food price. Have you observed any food price lately increase across your platform?
Manu, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So during the pandemic, the answer is no. And it is also because of a conscious decision from Wing that we do not allow, especially during the lockdown, we took a policy that we will not allow any of our merchant partners to increase rates during rates of their items during the lockdown time. But otherwise, in a normal circumstance, if a merchant partner wants to revise their prices, we cannot help that. That is their choice. But to give the answer that have you noticed any abnormal increase in rates and prices of food of late? No. The answer is no.
So we saw the same trend as Manu was mentioning. And we also recommend our partners to really opt for stability, right? Because into some of our agreements and discussions with them, we always try to, again, secure the overall ecosystem and make sure that clients are not seeing swinging prices, and that people do streamline their operation, and that's one of the axes that we are developing when it comes to the vendors. It's trying to help them to streamline their operations. So that means that helping them to understand better their business when it comes to logistics, when it comes to supply chain, when it comes to price positioning, and so on. And we are always very happy to being a source of advice to help them to develop their own business, right? Because we know that with stability comes efficiency, and from efficiency comes more business usually. So that's really a stance on this, and we are very happy to have seen that the prices have been pretty stable when it comes to the prices that you can find on the platform.
It's very meaningful answers. So thank you so much. So before we close our dialogue, I would like to address one last question. And this question also goes to Mr. Patrice. How are you overcoming barriers in onboarding food vendors?
We have, after signing every vendor, being extremely small or extremely big, right? We tend to have a dedicated team, or two dedicated teams actually. The first one is really the onboarding of it, right? So making sure that the devices that we provide, these standard operating procedures are being also well understood and well used. They get a manual, an onboarding manual, which is also extremely useful so that they can refer to it as often as they have a question. And then we have another team or other period, which is really the incubation after that, so that we during the first months or two after joining the platform, we continue to being extremely close to them, to make sure that every question is answered even before being asked. So that's what we try to do. And then after, we continue to have a very close relationship with each and every vendor through our account management teams in Foodpanda to make sure that they always have an interlocutor to talk to, and we are also developing the concept of regular training, right? Because sometimes even within the vendors you have staff attrition, so the new staff is not always very certain of the procedure to follow. So we come and provide refresher on a very regular basis to help them to continue to grow. So that's the main mechanism. I'm not quite sure that there is anything new, but we try to push it and professionalize it and make it as systematic as possible, so that each and every vendor is having a good experience on the platform.
Thank you so much for your insight. I have just checked our Facebook Live and we still have 2 last questions. So I would like to know if we have time, if both of our speakers are able to address the question. Could we continue a bit, like 10 minutes more, or should we end?
Sure, I'm okay. I'm okay, Mr. Vickness.
Okay, because we have got a lot of questions from our audience, both in our webinar and also on the Facebook Live. So another question from Ms. Dari, she would like to ask to Mr. Manu. Does Wing have any plan to develop cloud kitchens in Cambodia? The concept of cloud kitchens, it is new to me as well.
Yeah, see, the vision of Wing, as I mentioned, see, we let our vision drive our business and not the other way. The vision of Wing is to bring convenient and relevant solutions to the market to improve the lives of every Cambodian. Now, there are 4 things that are important, that vision. 1 is convenience. Whatever we do has to make it easy for the people who are involved in it. 2 is relevant. Now, relevance is not only the need satisfying ability of the product, but relevance is also in pricing. It has to be affordable, it has to be useful. Then it is improving the lives of people. It must definitely improve the lives of the people who are involved in it, using it, selling it, and facilitating it. 4th is for every Cambodian. We always stress upon that thing because we stand for digital, financial, and gender inclusion in this country. So it must be appealing, it must be relevant, it must be useful, and it must be reaching out to every single Cambodian. Anything that is revolving around, or anything that is deeply rooted in that vision, we will venture into. And that is the reason I told you the reason why we got into food delivery is, though it looks prima facie very distant from the payments and banking businesses that we have, is because there are partners who were there in our ecosystem, were going through distress, and we wanted to help generate income for them, which will in turn improve their lives. So that's how we look at opportunities that exist. If there are 60% of the 500,000, so that's about 300,000 micro SMEs who are women in Cambodia. And if there is a requirement for us to get into a venture that will improve the lives of those people, we will definitely. But having said that, it is a much bigger decision to do a cloud kitchen in a country like Cambodia, because that requires much more controlled operations of the business, because quality is of utmost importance. And the logistics wise, I guess we are ready. But when it comes to taking that decision, to making sure that during, is it the right time for any platform player to get into a decision to do an unorganized business like cloud kitchen, and then put the controls that are necessary to make sure that it definitely sticks to your vision? Maybe not. So in future, you never know. But right now, we don't think we are ready, and the time is right. Right now, we want to help our as I said, right now we want to help our merchant partners do their business better, because the whole objective, the whole idea of getting into this food delivery business was to help our restaurant and merchant partners generate income. So right now, no, we would rather focus on helping them grow their business rather than fragment the market.
Thank you, Mr. Manu, for a very interesting and remarkable mission and precise main points from the vision and the goal of Wing. So I would like to ask the last question to Mr. Patrice. Our audience also would like to look at the food safety and nutrition. So our audience, Ms. Suchita, she would like to know, does the delivery company like Foodpanda care about food safety and nutrition?
Yes, I think it's that's part of our mission, because food deliveries is also part of it should remain a pleasure, right? You are talking about a very important part of a human being, which is the metabolism and the overall body mechanics, right? So even though each and every platform, and ours is not different to that, has all types of cuisine, we also put the emphasis on having all types of cuisine, which is extremely healthy. We actually try to accompany also those that are willing to have concepts that are turned towards extremely healthy food, helping them to finance some of their activities and being a partner towards this, because healthy food is of course extremely important, as I was mentioning, but food safety is also very much important, because at the end of the day, we need to be an extension of the restaurant, and making sure that the type of safety that the people find into their favorite food in their favorite places is also what they find through the delivery service such as Foodpanda. And that is why it's very important to make sure that when they receive their order, it's as safe and as good looking and yummy looking to a certain extent as if it was when they receive it on the table of the restaurant. So clearly, yes, for us, food safety and healthiness of the food is extremely key. And we have several initiatives towards this, but it's also linked to the discovery, right? Having healthy food, having food safety, but also being able to browse and discover the wonders of the local dishes or international dishes is also very important. So we have a series of criteria when it comes to signing restaurants and making sure that at the end of the day, everyone is being safe and is being happy to receive something that is exactly their choice, and also helping them to increase their pleasure. Right, so yes, very important when it comes to Foodpanda on healthy food and yeah, safety.
Thank you so much for very compelling answers. And I would like to thank both of our speakers for very comprehensive, insightful, and a lot of interesting stories to share with our audiences for our dialogue today. I would like to conclude our discussion here. And I would like to sincerely thanks to both of our distinguished guest speaker, Mr. Patrice Wing, and also Mr. Manu Rajan, for spending your time joining us to share your experiences and also knowledge related to the food delivery industry during the pandemic in our dialogue today. I also would like to thanks to our audiences who pay attention to our dialogue and stay with us since the beginning of our discussion. I wish both of our speakers the best of luck and also wish both all of our audiences the best of luck. We will see each other in the next episodes. Thank you and please stay safe.
Thank you.
Yeah.